Welcome to One-on-One with Expert Flyer. This is your host, Lisa Caslin. The summer of 22 is promising to be a blockbuster shot in the arm for the travel industry. In fact, some researchers are even predicting that travel from the US to Europe will increase by as much as 600% this year as compared to 2021. So as more people will be hitting the air, land, and sea, now's a good time to dust off some of those reliable travel apps or maybe even download some new ones. There are some vintage apps out there that are still pulling their weight, and maybe people have forgotten about them, and maybe there's some new ones too. And what are the travel apps that you think are worth dusting off, or maybe, I don't know, some new ones that you think people should take a look at?
You know, one of the things as an award travel enthusiast, I have a lot of credit cards. There's an app called Travel Freely, and it's actually made by a friend of mine here in Denver who used to be a school teacher. So this is, real mom and pop stuff. It organizes your credit cards. It, tells you when the due dates and the annual fees are coming up. It helps you decide which card to use for which purchases.
I think the one I probably use the most, that I find the most essential, is Tripit. And that is a travel organizing app. So basically, after you set it up with your email, anytime you get an email that's a plane reservation or a hotel reservation or car rental reservation or anything like that they can recognize, they actually automatically now upload it into the app. So you used to have to forward it to like plans@tripit.com, but now it's finding them automatically most of the time when they come into your email. So, when I'm going traveling, I don't want to have to manually put all this stuff into my Google Calendar or whatever. So it just all shows up in the Tripit app, and you've got your confirmation number, the times, when you take off, when you land, when you're, what hotel you're staying at, all of that. And if you're on a trip of multiple days and multiple stops, that can be really handy.
The other app I always use when I travel is Google Maps. Although, I mean, you can't book travel through Google Maps, but from the perspective of a guide, I think this is the great. If you want to find a great restaurant, I think Google Maps filtering by rating 4.5 plus rating gives you all the best restaurants in a given area. It's funny how that 4.5 rating differs, say, for places like New York versus Boston. I mean, the kind of, or for instance, Poland, Warsaw, because the kind of restaurants that you get are different with such a high rating, and you get what the locals really like. For instance, in New York, that would be a fine dining restaurant typically. While in Warsaw, it's more like, I'd say, a really cool hipster place, I'd say. And so Google Maps does the job for me.
I do have Kayak on my phone, and that's sort of a multi-search app that you can use for searching car rentals or hotels or airlines. So I kind of like having all that in one place. So that's how I mostly do my searches. But I got to say, I usually book it on my computer because something I'm spending $800 or $1,000 on sometimes. I really don't like the idea of doing that on my phone. But I will do all the searches on my phone just to see what's out there. But, it's important to remember that not every airline is on any app, really, including the search app. So you might still have to go search Southwest or Allegiant or some of the other airlines. I do have the apps for, I think, Southwest, Delta, and United on my phone, partly because they have entertainment aspects. Like if you're on their plane with their app on your phone or your tablet, you can watch TV shows or movies or something. And they also send you alerts when your flight gets delayed or your gate gets changed, and that's very handy.
In terms of the airline apps, I'd say that so far Delta is the best. Delta's app is the best, and their functionality around the virtual queues and overall their innovation around the app, I think just is great. Although from technical perspective, I see many airline apps use what we in tech call web views, when you just actually you're not you don't have an app, you actually open some of the web page inside the app.
Yeah.
And sometimes even Delta uses that. But I'd say if Delta uses that in 10% of cases, other apps use it like in 70 or 80% of cases. And that's why the user experience is much, much better for Delta compared to some other airline apps.
Actually, I'm not a huge app person. So if I like an app, it's got something really compelling going for it. I've been using Expert Flyer for years. That's solves or helps solve one of the big problems that I have, because I'm traveling on points and miles usually. And you could use Expert Flyer not just to search for available award trips, but you can use it to set alerts. Which is, I think, one of the only apps that does that. And so I frequently have this issue where I'm trying to find a particular flight and I don't know when those award tickets will become available. I set that alert and I get that email and I get so excited.
This is not the app, but just open your Netflix or HBO and whatever you're like, and just download those things before departure. I think that's something that people forget, but then they really regret in flight.
I will, I'm trying to piece together a trip. I will go to Wikipedia's page for the airport I'm flying to or from. And I'll see a list of every airline that flies to that airport and every destination that they serve nonstop. So, for example, I'm going to Italy this summer, and while I'm in Italy for a month, I'm going to visit Paris. Well, how do I get from central Italy to Paris? Well, I don't know all the airlines, and certainly even a website like Expedia isn't going to list all the airlines. So I look at the local airports there, and I look for Paris there because Paris has a couple airports as well. And sure enough, I find EasyJet, which I've never flown before. I go to the website, $260 round trip for my family of 5.
Yeah, I think it's important to just have a lot of general travel things on your phone that you're going to use regularly. Like I have the Airbnb app, Uber and Lyft. It's good to compare those two, by the way, because the prices can be radically different.
Book early. The change fees are gone since 2019 from 2020. So book early, book the best thing you have, change it later when something better becomes available or if something better becomes available.